WADR, promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Burkinabe interim president signs the decree on general mobilization and warning to address insecurity. The Chinese embassy in Abuja, Nigeria, denies allegations of financing terrorism to access mining sites in the country. Côte d'Ivoire's electoral umpire announces the regional and municipal councillors' election date. And the 2023 State of the Ghanaian Media Report reveals financial struggles and poor working conditions.
Journalists feel insecure. They think that the environment they're working in is increasingly threatened. And so that there are violations to their safety, all kinds of violations.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Here is Tofik Abdoulnasir with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. The Burkinabe interim president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Wednesday signed the general mobilization and warning decree. This decree gives details on the application of his new decision for a period of 12 months. As Abdullahi Hassan reports, the decree, now endorsed by Captain Traoré, was first adopted at the Council of Ministers last Thursday.
The decree on the general mobilization and warning signed on Wednesday contains 14 articles. The decision, which applies for 12 months, aims to defend the integrity of the national territory, restore security throughout the country, and ensure the protection of the population. This includes members of the defense and security forces in a non-active position and physically able youth aged 18 and over. The decree also specifies that during the general mobilization, the population can organize under the supervision of the security forces to defend their locality against any form of threats, including terrorist groups. During the 12 months, requisitions will be formulated in writing and signed to provide the troops with the necessary means to accomplish their mission on the ground. These requisitions will specify the nature and number of the goods or services, the summary description of the condition of the goods, and also the duration. The document, signed by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, adds that individual and collective rights and freedoms remain guaranteed, even if they are sometimes restricted or limited. But these restrictions cannot derogate from fundamental rights, including the right to life.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting there. The Beninese army says it is committed to better communicating on the security situation in the country's north. It made the promise during an international symposium organized in Cotonou, Benin's commercial capital. Recall since 2021, when terrorists began operating in parts of the north of the country, the Beninese press has complained about a lack of official information on the situation. By the end of the symposium, the army assured that the media will now be its ally in this war against the terrorists. Ogeobi Erika has more in this report by WADR's Rudolph Karl in Cotonou.
The Beninese army is looking for the right formula to communicate well in the face of the terrorist attacks that have been going on for over a year in the north of the country. It has organized this conference to get the opinions of experts in defense and security issues as well as communication specialists. A security analyst, Oswald Patonu, believes that the army no longer has a choice but to review its communication policy in the face of the terrorist threat. The experts and researchers at the conference all called on the National Army to communicate in order to get closer to the population. According to them, the affected communities need to be reassured in the face of the terror imposed by armed groups. The journalist invited to this international meeting did not fail to tell the head of the Beninese army how difficult it is to get official information on the security situation in the north. General Fructuous Bagwidi said he understood. This two-day international symposium was held on the theme Information Management and Communication of Armies in the Context of the Fight Against Terrorism in Africa. The meeting saw the participation of the armies of Côte d'Ivoire, Togo, Niger, Nigeria, and Ghana. Representatives of the American, French, and Belgian armies were also present to share their experiences in effectively handling the growing security threats.
Oge Erika with that report by WADR's Rudolph Karl in Cotonou. In Nigeria, a section of the population has expressed deep concern about the involvement of powerful nations, international organizations, and individuals in terrorism financing. The latest to spark such a reaction is the report of China's funding of militants to gain access to mining sites. The embassy in Abuja on Wednesday issued a statement in which it denied the allegation published by a UK-based daily on April 15, 2023. Imoredet tells us more.
In a statement on Wednesday, China denied the accusation and reiterated its respect for Nigeria as a sovereign state, distancing itself from the report that it was funding militants to gain access to Nigerian mining sites. Asia's powerhouse said it will never be involved in such acts. The Chinese embassy condemned the publication by the Times of the United Kingdom, describing it as unverified, unclear, and unproven information as well as irresponsible. The article is titled "Chinese Bribe Nigerian Militant to Gain Access to Vast Mineral Reserves." Although unconfirmed by the authorities and security experts in the country, this is not the first of such reports, claims, or accusations against China concerning corrupt practices, with particular emphasis on the mining sector in Nigeria. Dr. Maja Peters is an Abuja-based security analyst.
I wouldn't want to pin it down to China alone. I mean, in all the crises that we've had, especially around the mining sites, we've had people from Burkina Faso, we've had people from other countries here, Mali, Nigerians, that have been picked, arrested, and it is obvious that they're not Nigerians. China has been involved in a lot of issues in the Sahel as well, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have a verifiable evidence right now, but I know that around the mining sites, a lot of Chinese people are there.
Peters fears that Nigeria, like other African countries, including in the sub-region, is right on under the radar of wealthy nations for its natural resources.
There is no point in time in the history of Africa as a continent that there are no scramble for its resources. Africa as a continent has never been able to control its resources. There's always been scramble. But the issue is, as Africans, what are we doing? What are we thinking? Where are we going? When up to today, we think only of ourselves, not of the collective population.
The region is currently grappling with bandits who attack, kill, loot, and abduct civilians, including women and children, for ransom.
Imoredet filed that report.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The electoral umpire of Côte d'Ivoire sets September 2023 for the regional and municipal councillors' elections. The decision was reached after the adoption of a decree at the end of the Council of Ministers on Wednesday, chaired by President Alassane Ouattara. The twin elections will allow both the ruling and opposition parties to gauge their strength ahead of the presidential election in 2025. James Ejapon tells us more.
The twin elections slated for Saturday, September 2nd, 2023 followed the proposal of the Independent Electoral Commission, CEI. Announcing the decree, Ivorian spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly explained that the ballot will open at 8 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. These electoral contests promise to be epic for the various political parties, said Coulibaly. The Electoral Commission indicated that since enlisting on the electoral list, candidates from several major parties have not yet decided on their fate as to their designation to represent their political parties. But not all of these candidates are the same. The president of the National Assembly of Côte d'Ivoire, Adama Bitogo, from the ruling RHDP, will contest in the municipal elections representing Yopougon. This is a popular town in the west of Abidjan and a stronghold of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo. For the president of the former ruling Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, Henry Conan Bedier. A meeting is scheduled to hold today, Thursday, in Dakar, east of Côte d'Ivoire. The gathering should define and legitimize the selection process for the potential candidates in the September regional and municipal councillors elections.
James Japan with that report. We head to Ghana, where the State of the Ghanaian Media Report has just been released, revealing a troubling reality for the country's media industry. The report, produced by the University of Ghana School of Communication Studies, cites numerous factors contributing to the industry's financial struggles, including market saturation, high business cost, reduced advertising revenue, and the ongoing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, the report highlights poor working conditions for journalists and a lack of regulatory and promotional structures within the industry. Atewin Mbela Lawson in Accra has the details of this report.
The School of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana marked its Golden Jubilee by releasing the State of the Ghanaian Media Report 2023. Professor Audrey Gajipo, a former dean of the school, highlighted media operations and freedom. The report uncovered that political influence is hindering accountability, and journalists often feel unsafe due to violations.
So journalists feel insecure. They think that the environment they're working in is increasingly threatened. And so that there are violations to their safety, all kinds of violations.
Professor Gajipo also noted that journalists and other communicators are underpaid for the professional service they provide.
Also, that many journalists work without contract. This is a formal space, but many journalists work without contracts. There are no established structures for promotion, so it's not clear what will determine whether you'll be promoted or not. Again, it depends on the whim of the media manager, sometimes the media owner.
Despite facing challenges, most journalists believe they can carry out their duties. The keynote address by the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Professor Amin Al-Hassan, called for media content regulation to safeguard societal values.
Given the backdrop of culture of silence and the reign of terror against the media in the pre-1992 period, it is understandable that any idea of content regulation was shunned. But after 30 years, we are now realizing that we need to have a free and, importantly as well, a responsible media. And that is why the subject of content regulation must be broached.
The report was compiled, published and launched with the support of the U.S. Embassy in Ghana and the Media Foundation for West Africa. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atewin Mbela Lawson in Accra.
It's 12 minutes past the hour 12. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The Burkinabe interim president signs the decree on general mobilization and warning to address insecurity. The Chinese embassy in Abuja, Nigeria, denies allegations of financing terrorism to access mining sites in the country. Côte d'Ivoire's electoral umpire announces the regional and municipal councillors' election date. And the 2023 State of the Ghanaian Media Report reveals financial struggles and poor working conditions. Still ahead are the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Stay tuned.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Access to safe drinking water is said to be a major challenge confronting Liberia. That's according to the International Social Survey Program, a non-governmental organization in Liberia. According to its findings released Wednesday, about 10% of Liberia's 5 million people are without safe drinking water. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Darlington Popper reports.
The survey was conducted to assess the number of Liberians who have access to safe drinking water and equally taking into account those who don't. The report released by Dr. George Wilson, an official of the International Social Survey Program, informs that access to safe drinking water is a major challenge confronting a significant number of people, most of them in rural areas.
Many of our communities don't have safe drinking water, so people are dying as a result of waterborne diseases. Disabled people and many of those who struggle to survive at the margins of our society, in towns and villages where the majority of our people live. Water is a problem. They say by 2030, everybody should have safe drinking water. We look forward to that.
The report shows that the situation is also alarming in slum communities outside of the capital, Monrovia. Jefferson Knight, program director of the United Methodist Human Rights Monitor, in brief remarks, said his institution has embarked on the construction of water facilities across the country to increase accessibility.
Some of the things the Water for Life project has done has helped young people stay in school, especially our girls. During that period, they will have to leave school, especially where some of the schools don't have toilets. They have to stay home for 3 days, 5 days. And you all know the story. They'll have to miss the lesson. So as a result of that, the male students will always tap them. So those places where have constructed water wells, hand pumps, and toilets has improved immensely the educational facility in that area.
In resolving the water crisis for rural dwellers in Liberia, a 3-count recommendation aimed at improving the supply of safe drinking water was adopted and forwarded to the government for action. For Newslink on WADR, I am Darlington Pogba reporting from Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Atiwin and Bila Lawson in Accra joins us now with the major headlines from the Ghanaian dailies.
Greetings from Accra, Ghana. Welcome to the newspaper review for today, Thursday, April 20, 2023. Let's start with the Daily Guide newspaper. The screaming headline says, Mahama Brian comment not criminal, says the Inspector General of Police. A banner headline, 13 foreigners arrested for manufacturing explosives. And there are some pictures there of some Chinese nationals. And then some other banner headlines, Nana commissions new police barracks, and NDC clears 14 constituencies put on hold. So that's it for the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's now go to the Daily Graphic newspaper. That's the screaming headline here says, political capture of media risky, report warns. Just a snippet of that story. Political capture of the media landscape has been identified as a major threat to the media freedom in the country's democracy. According to research conducted by the Department of Communications of the University of Ghana, there was an increasing concentration of the media in the hands of partisan actors. So that's the screaming headline in the Daily Graphic newspaper. A banner headline, President inaugurates Kwabenya. Another banner headline, GRA SML Ghana expand revenue audit. And the final headline today, we are drowning in information but starved for knowledge. Access credible information download. And that's a story there from the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, the screaming headline, President inaugurates 322 housing units for the police. Then we have a banner headline, economy expands by 3.1% in 2022, according to Ghana Statistical Service. There's a picture there of government statistician, Professor Samuel Kwabena Enim. And then another banner headline, NPP NDC urged to allow police carry out duty. There's a photo there of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare. So those are the headlines in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's go and bring you some business stories now. The Business Finder newspaper, 322 houses for police to provide conducive working environment, according to President Akufo-Addo. That's a screaming headline. Some banner headlines, payroll cleanup can save Ghana 10 billion Ghana cedis annually, according to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And then WTCA General Assembly, over 500 delegates will be attending that. And so that is, those are the headlines from the Business Finder newspaper. And those are the headlines in the major dailies for today. I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson. Back to you in the studio.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The authorities in Burkina Faso announced a general mobilization to combat terrorism, providing the state with all necessary means. The objective is to create a legal framework to address the insurgents and recapture 40% of the territory held by jihadist groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Details of the plan have not been revealed, but it is expected to include a state of emergency in affected territories. In February, the government announced the recruitment of 5,000 additional soldiers to fight the insurgency in the Sahel. Joining us now is Yusuf Ouattara, governance and security expert.
I think a long time ago, people have been requiring the government to take this measure. And I think it's a good measure because now we really need the commitment of every Burkina citizen in this fight. And I think it's a good decision because this decision to mobilize the national community is in the law. So the government is just applying a provision of the law. Given the situation now, I think it's really necessary that everybody be mobilized. In any way, the measure is just for 1 year, and maybe after 1 year they will renew or they will stop it. And the application of this measure is under the control of judges.
So, like you said, the objective is to create a legal framework to address the insurgents and recapture about 40% of the territory held by jihadis, which you also comment that even the populace have long waited for this opportunity. But how will the government ensure that the implementation of the decree does not result in the abuses or violates the rights of the citizens?
As I say, it's under the control of the judge. It means that every citizen, if you feel that there have been an abuse in the application of the measure, you can still go on in court in order to get the decision removed or get reparation. So it's still in the framework of the legal system in Burkina. And I also think that there may be difficulties maybe when it comes to take away people's means, because what is expected is that if you have your truck, you have your vehicle, and the government needed this vehicle for a particular mission, the government should be able to take away your vehicle. But what he said, the law said that there should be an appropriate compensation when the government takes away your asset. I think that's where some people will not be probably happy with the compensation, because if they think that the compensation is not worth the asset, I think that's where problem can arise. If not, I don't think that is an arbitrary situation. The measure will be applied under the supervision of the judges, and everybody still have the possibility to complain in court in order to get a reparation if you feel that there is an abuse. Back to you.
Right. This decree, like many others that the Burkinabe government has adopted, which include one in February where the government announced the recruitment of 5,000 additional soldiers to fight the insurgency. Yet we still keep seeing the increasing number of casualties in the country as far as terrorist attacks is concerned. Do you think this latest one can change the narrative? And if so, why?
It's going to change it because the crisis has taken another form. It was much more a military fight, a military crisis, insurgent against military. And because volunteers have been recruited, and then community members became target for those violent extremist groups. And they are also undergoing a lot of attack now. They are losing a lot of their combatants. I think it's in retaliation that they are attacking the civilian because they are really under pressure now, and they are losing members of the combatant. So we will see a communitarization of the crisis. So the fight, the crisis will be much more a community crisis, and probably there will be more attack on civilians. And that's why even yesterday the government decided that new civil servant will be trained also use a gun. Okay, so every civil servant, teachers and nurses will be trained how to use a gun, so that nobody can come in a village and shoot. Two persons come and shoot and just walk away free. That's no longer possible.
Yusuf Ouattara is a governance and security expert. Sankule Janko is here with sports news.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The road to the final of Africa's top club competitions resumed this weekend. The Total Energies CAF Champions League and Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup reach a suspend phase this weekend as the continent's top clubs start the first leg journey of the quarterfinals. Friday evening, four-time champions ES Tunis of Tunisia will make their way to Algeria to face JS Kabylie, who are working towards a third Total Energies Champions League medal, having won it in 1981 and 1990. On Saturday, Tanzanian side Zimba AC will welcome reigning champions Wydad AC in an afternoon fixture that is set to bring Dar es Salaam to a complete standstill according to CAF official website. Later that evening, South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns will take on Algeria's Siad Belouizdad. Meanwhile, record holders Al Ali will welcome Raja CA, who are hoping for a Total Energies CAF Champions League gold medal, having last won it in 1999. In the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup fixtures on Sunday, reigning Nigerian Premier League champions Rivers United will kick off their first ever Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup quarterfinal fixture against Tanzanian champions Young Africans SA in the afternoon. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM, and in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County, in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Inyas Bilimu has been on the console, and Mustafa Sek has been streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Do interact with us via social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's Environment Program, Enviroscope, with Abdullahi Hassan. I am Tofik Abdoulnasir. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.